The Dark Preview Show. It's Dan and Luke from Dark Previews here to preview round 15 of the NRL. Quite a few juicy games. We have a uninterrupted week. Thank fuck, because that Origin stuff can get real weird sometimes. So back to normal proceedings for now. Anything you want to call out from last week? What was your big surprises?
Big surprises. I think of Melbourne being fucking shit was me. Like, as you guys know, I'm very passionate. Cowboys hopeful for the 8 this year, and what they dished up against them was pretty ordinary. So probably, that was probably the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah, I thought what really shocked me, well, obviously that Cowboys scoring that many points against Melbourne was absolutely ridiculous, but I'd say the Tigers' comeback really fucking shocked me. Like, I was close to just turning it off because I thought my bet was in. Canberra to cover. It was a small, 2.5 points, 4.5
2.5,
points,
yeah,
2.5 points. I was like, that's easy money. Like, you can't lose from here. I was watching the game thinking, fuck, should have just picked Canberra to win, and I should have picked unders because that's the two I was leaning. I should have just done the multi. That's what I was thinking. And then watching the Tigers come back just surprised the shit. It got to the point where I was like, my bet's not going to win. I hope the Tigers win. I just hope the Tigers win because I know other punters are going to get fucked by this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that really shocked you. Shocked me. Player performances. Any players stand out? Anyone really impressed you before I ask you who the worst player you saw was last week?
No one really surprised me. I thought, as I said, obviously Cowboys winning was a bit of a shock, but I think that was more Melbourne playing pretty average. Sean Johnson was pretty good again, so I'd probably go Sean Johnson.
Sean Johnson was excellent. For me, it was bloody Scott Drinkwater. Fuck, he was pissing me off. Just when when they were going try for try,
yeah,
like Melbourne are going to come back, they're going to put him to sleep, and then Drinkwater was just carving him up. It was doing my head in. It was pissing me off. Like he was just so charismatic in the way that he carried himself. So
charismatic.
I thought he was excellent, and my man Huncho jumped in before I got to. Katoni Staggs he always owns Talakai. Ever since it was these guys are fighting for a center spot in Origin, Katoni's just been putting it on this man. Fucking brilliant. Agreed. He ran for 220 meters last week. That was a career high for Katoni. Last year he averaged 90 meters a game. This year is at about 125.
He's gone above and beyond.
He's just putting in work. It's crazy. He's not doing all that flashy stuff, so you would assume he's not playing as good as he was when he was like scoring more tries. But now he's actually doing more work. He doesn't have to score points. There's other blokes that can do that, but he's actually just getting through some shit work. So that's a great call, that Huncho. Katoni was an absolute legend. All right, dog shit. Who is your dog shit player of the week?
Luke Brooks. Luke Brooks. Fucking hell. And there probably was shitter players. Probably was. Like, I'll be honest, there probably was quite a fair few. But the media last week came out and go this undeserved criticism of his career and everything like that. The guy has never played a finals game, like never in 200 games. He's in a position that is basically the most important position in the team. He's paid $1 million a year, and he still hasn't made a finals appearance. Yeah, he played one game against the Cowboys, and everyone's like, "Oh, look how good he can be," and everything. And now they're even talking about re-signing the fucker.
He played good for 19 minutes last week. 19 minutes.
Yeah, 19 minutes, and that 20th minute was where he fucking needed to step up. And that last play was fucking that summed the Tigers up. And instead of like whinging, now it's all about Fogarty pushed him in the back or something. Just he's so shit. Like I would be filthy if the Tigers fans want him re-signed. Like he is so bad, but he probably wasn't the shittest player. I just like look at him going, all these people who defended him last week, a week ago. Like you look at Penrith, for example, Cleary loses an Origin game and every fucking person turns on him like no tomorrow. Yet the guys have gone back-to-back premierships plus a grand final in their first year. Cleary's 50% win rate at Origin, which is basically online with most players. Yeah, it gets fucking hate on. Brooks, don't touch him. He played 200 games. Shit.
Yeah. It's funny. You know that reminds. It's a quote someone said to me last week. It's like, if you're not being recognized for the work that you do, you're probably doing it right.
Yeah.
But if people are telling you that, like, when you do your job and people are like, "Oh, that's excellent, you're doing well," you're probably not good at it. The same way, like if you're learning to drive,
Yeah.
right? And then you pull up and they go to you, "That was really good. That was great driving." But in reality, you're probably a really shit driver. You just needed a
Yeah.
confidence boost. Whereas I know how to drive, and I haven't been complimented on my driving for like 15 years, 16 years.
Exactly.
I figured it out, mate. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's what's happening with Luke Brooks right now. So I think it's a good call out. It's a brave move because everybody's pissing in his pocket right now.
Yeah, they're talking 500,000-600,000 a year to re-sign him. Over $1 million over 2 years or something. Like, that's stupid money. There's not many halfbacks going around, granted, but fucking hell, like the guy is 200 games. By the time, if he re-signs, by the time that contract ends, it'll be 250 games into a career, potentially with no finals appearances. Like, crazy. I think we've lost Dan.
I'm back.
I've got double Dan.
Double Dan. Let me get rid of
Hang
this
on.
other cunt.
Yeah,
Bang.
leave
You've
that.
been promoted to the left side of the screen.
Thank you.
The worst player for me, well, not the worst player, but someone I thought was dog shit, was Cameron Munster. Nothing. He did nothing. Even when the Storm were coming back, he was doing nothing. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, your shit. Yeah, Munster's a bit of he's turning into probably a Gagai-esque. So he's only playing big and bigger games. That's what I think with Munster. So I like that shout as well. Now I'm getting the messages to keep going. All right. Well, we'll get started anyway because Dan's internet is shit. Anyway, so we'll go on to where's my draw? First game we have up is the Gold Coast Titans versus the West Tigers, kicking off on Thursday night. Anyone remembers this game a year ago? It was absolutely one of the shittest games you'll ever see. Is he back? Are you
Probably
back?
not. I'll keep going.
All right. This is me. I'm doing your role here. This is good. Titans favorites there at -1.5. Tigers at the Titans. Last time they played each other, it was an 8-6 scoreline. Do you remember that game? It was like 2-0.
One of the worst things I've ever seen.
It was like 2-0 with about 2 minutes to go, and then went to absolute
There's
madness.
34 Luke Brooks playing in that game.
Yes. So I'll go first. I've gone a bit wider with this bet. I've gone the opposite to what I've just talked about. I've got both teams to score 20 points at $2.56. The easy bet for me would be betting Tigers second half handicap, given the way they finished last week and the way Titans shit the bed.
Struggles. Yep.
But I'm going safe. Both teams score 20 points.
I have very similar insights. That's how I think the game's going to go, but I've just gone with second half overs, over 23.5 points. I think the Titans are five or six of their home games or something. The second half's gone over like 26 points or something ridiculous like that. So yeah, second half overs for me. So our bets are kind of aligned. It's not just bad. That first half, because I know the Tigers might not score at all in that first half, which worries me. But I know in Gold Coast games, things open up in the second half against everyone except for that Manly game where they went to Manly and upset them. But that was a defensive grind. But we're talking, this is at Seabus, Gold Coast Titans footy. We're going to see points. So
I agree.
I'm with you there. All right, what's the next one?
All right, moving on to Friday, 6 p.m. It's fucking hell. Talk about another. This game is that overhyped. The Canberra Raiders against the New Zealand Warriors. Raiders $1.50 head to head are your favorites. The line currently is at -4.5. The over/under is at 43.5. This is basically the Jared Croker 300 testimonial. That basically everyone's it's been built up like no tomorrow. The guy against playing 300 games, and they're like so grateful for him. Again, the fuckers never won a comp, so I can't wait to see every Panthers player's 300th game. Obviously, he's back in the team. So Ricky went and attacked the media for dropping him the week before because he was resting him. We got Danny Levi, Elliot Whitehead, Jared Croker, Sebastian Chris, and Xavier Savage back in the squad. However, they are named on the replacement, the reserves. For the Warriors, we have Rocco Berry is out. Ronald Volkman, Freddie Lussick, Braden Williami. Don't even know how to say that guy's name. I'm not going to be racist. Zion Ma'u in the team. How do you see this one?
I think the Raiders are too short. That it is overhyped, so that means there's definitely value at the Warriors line. The Warriors are my second favorite team, so naturally I want to lean towards them. The Canberra Raiders' form over the last 2 months has been excellent. The Warriors have dropped off a little bit, but Sean Johnson has been excellent. The pick, the safest pick, which I think I can't see it losing, is either team 1 or 12, but you'll probably only get that for $1.70. So if this hype is bullshit, the Warriors will win in a close one and upset Jared Croker's 300th. But if the Raiders step up, being at home and everything like that, I think they win 1 to 12. So I'm going risky. I'm going Canberra 1 to 12. It's $2.80. Canberra have won 8 games this year. All games have been won by 1 to 12 points.
Nice. I've gone Raiders minus 4.5. I think this will be the game the Warriors will have a fair claim to say the refs dudded them. I think everything leans towards the refs. Everything is pointing to a Canberra performance. There's one thing on Sportsbet that I have noticed now, the markets. They've actually got player points scored, player combo.
I am just looking at that right now.
But then they've also got stat markets. And if there's a stat that if you can bet on it, it's whatever fucking the big red dog's on, Horsburgh, get the overs because that fucker is playing for an Origin jersey. And he's peaking right now. And I love nothing better than Ranger that's peaking right now.
Yeah. He's back playing lock again, right?
Yeah, he is. So, and even all the players are giving him raps at the moment, pumping him up because now there's injuries in the Queensland team. So he's a very good chance of getting named, which I'm excited about. So, yeah, but I'm taking the minus 4.5 on that one. On to your Friday main event game of the night, not the rounds, because we haven't got to that game yet on Saturday. Out at 4 Pines Park, Sydney, we have the Manly Sea Eagles at $1.37 taking on the Titans at $3. From a head-to-head point with team news, Tommy Turbo's conned every medical professional out there and somehow got around the 11-day stand-down rules. So well done to him. We've also got DCE back. We also see the departure of Cooper Johns, which is disappointing. I thought a halfback that's not living in his dad's name. It's disappointing he didn't get dropped. From the Dolphins, the fins up boys. Milford's out after nearly killing someone again. Jared Wallace is out after his injury. Mason Teague is out. The Hammers back in after Origin. Jeremy Marshall King is also back, which is a huge in for them because they really did miss him last week. Current line is 9.5. Manly favourites. How do you see it?
Firstly, Anthony Milford might be quietly spoken, somewhat small compared to a lot of NRL players, but he's still Samoan, mate. And those motherfuckers can get aggressive. He fucking murdered that bloke nice and late. I think, yeah, look, the punishment fits the crime. You know, it's great to see a bit of aggression from a half. So I was happy to see that. Not good for the Dolphins. I don't have a bet on this one, but I do lean towards the Dolphins to cover, but it might be an affinity towards the Dolphins. I know they're missing a few players, but just looking at their track record, they play good every second week. Like, no one bounces back after a loss in the Dolphins. You're looking at the stats there. The Dolphins lost. How many back-to-back games have they lost?
That is purely why I've taken them plus 9.5.
Yeah.
Because they've only lost 2 games in a row, and that was against Broncos, and then round 4, round 5 against the Dragons. After that, they got win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Good for your tipping out there, guys. Tip the win.
Yeah, so I'm leaning Dolphins. I'm not going to put it in my multi because I'm not throbbing about it, but you're game enough. You can take them.
I'm aroused by them. 9.5. Marshall King and the Hammer are the big inclusions for that team.
Up the
They're
guts.
up the guts, ripping in. They've been their two best players, so that's who I'm taking. On to your Saturday at 3 p.m. We have the Dragons still in last, hosting the Rabbitohs. Dragons 275, Rabbitohs $1.45. Your line currently sits at plus 7.5 for the Dragons. From a team news point of view, Jack DeBellin is out. That's disappointing. But also they do get Jack Bird back in, Blake Laurie, Talatai Moan, Talatai Moga, and Zay Musgrove. For the Rabbits, they are missing Cam Murray and Jai Arrow, and Latrell is still out. I'm going to go first in this one. I've actually got St. George plus 7.5. Crazy, I know that, but
Not crazy at all.
My theory is them at home are a much better team. They've basically played 2 home games out of their last seven games. They've been on the road a fair bit lately, and they actually weren't too bad against Penrith the other night. Granted, Cleary was injured, but I think they were competitive versus a Souths team. For me, who I know they beat the Titans, but that again they were down 22-16 at halftime and lost their 2 prior games as well. And I think Latrell is a big loss for them. Plus, that forward pack is getting stripped again. So I've gone the Dragons. Yourself?
I'm leaning towards the Dragons as well. So looking at their last 9 games, they've only played 2 at home.
There you go.
So it's a rough draw for them. Shit club already, given a tough draw to travel with a young team with only 1 good player. But I'm taking the Dragons plus 3.5 in the first half. For a couple of reasons. Dragons are at home. Lean to them a little bit. They're playing much better football under this new coach. Or maybe they're not playing better, but at least the new coach has everybody playing in the right position. He's got a proper hooker, proper halfback, proper 6, he's got everyone playing the right position. Whereas before they were all over the place. Is Mbai on the bench? Please tell me he's on the bench.
1 second, I can tell you. Mbai is 14 on the bench.
That's where he should be. He's a great 14. He does not deserve to be in the top 13 of any team in the NRL. So, new coach, better lineups, playing at home, and South depleted forward pack. They're missing their weapon in Latrell. And we know that South are a second half team. They did it last week against the Tits. They can turn it on, and that's what I worry about when I take the Dragons full line. But I'd be comfortable taking that 3.5. In terms of goal kicking as well, who's goal kicking for South? Who was kicking last week?
Taff.
It'd be Taff?
Yeah.
They scored a fucking lot of points, so I don't know how well he kicked or not, but I'd still take the flick pass over Taff when it comes to kicking. So if they go 2 tries each in the first half, this comes home.
Taff went 6 from 8 last week.
Jesus.
7 from 9, including the penalty.
How many did AJ score?
AJ scored 2. Sorry, 3. He scored a hattie last week. Okay. For those of you out there, should have keep re-rolling my AJ bet because he scored 3.
Yeah. Well, I think out of the 2 that he missed, they were probably on AJ's. So he had easy conversions, I'm going to assume. I didn't watch that game. But yeah, Dragons first half line for me.
I like it. Moving on to your main event of the weekend. I'm just moving you at this point. The Kevolution Broncos.
Kevolution.
Up against the fucking awful Newcastle Knights. It is a 2nd versus 11th battle. $1.20 Bronx head-to-head. Favourites $4.50 Knights. 12.5 is the line. From a lineup point of view, Broncos only dropping Tristan Saylor, but basically, unless you can correct me if I'm wrong, a near full strength. Knights do get back Tyson Frizzell from Origin. Ponga still at fullback with Gamble and Hastings in the halves. This 12.5, I think, whilst it is a big line, I think they cover this. I think at Suncorp, they played each other at Suncorp last year and Brisbane won 28-10. that was towards the end of the season. That's when they went on that shitty run. They still managed to beat a Newcastle team.
Yeah.
Prior to that, again, earlier that year, they beat them by 24. They're going for 4 in a row against them. So I'm taking to cover the 12.5. I think they're peaking at the moment, the Broncos. And I think one thing that I think people are really starting to notice is defensively, they're holding their own. They do have moments where they do lapse a little bit, but they're still a pretty good team if defending a repeat set.
We're one of the rare teams in the comp that hasn't had a bye yet. So this is our last game before we get a bye next week.
You won't know what to do with yourselves next week.
Yeah, fuck.
Just stay out of those
Bali,
pubs. Stay out of those clubs and pubs around women, mate.
I don't know. We'll see. Fuck. They should keep playing. Look, I'm taking the Broncos 13 plus. Well, basically Broncos to cover the line. I was a bit hesitant at first. I know that there's a bye next week. Could they be looking ahead? It's against the Knights, not very good. They'd be very confident coming into this one. But they are playing at home. I have faith in Kevin to get these guys up for this game. They've done it every week so far this year, even the games we lost. I'm not bothered by that. Penrith are dominating us. We still kept it close enough. They were getting dominated. That was rough. But we held our own. Melbourne, that was the controversial hip drop bullshit that ruined that game. We'll come in and get them. They're actually the only one we didn't play well was against the Raiders. That was the only one. That was this. Every other week we've been good enough to make me happy. So I'm taking Broncos 13 plus. I was going to take the Knights unders. We spoke about the defense, but look, Ponga at fullback. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. He's probably not going to get concussed, but Flegler's playing, so we'll see. Flegler or Marty to get him higher, I think. But the last 2 times we versed Newcastle, whether it was in Newcastle or at Suncorp, with 13 plus them. Actually, last 3 times. Last 3 games we've beaten 13 plus. We've just got too much depth, too much cattle chemistry. You fucking name it. Reynolds is hungry for this 7th spot, so he's going to be keen as fuck to get out there. Katoni was excellent last week. He's not going to get picked, but he might think he's a chance. And, just the Origin contingent across the board. Very impressive. So, Brisbane 13 plus. Book it.
Lovely. Just one thing on the Broncos. They're actually 7-1 away from home. It's a very impressive stat because they've got, I think the Women's World Cup kicks off in the next few weeks. So they move out of Suncorp basically and play a lot on the road. But that's very impressive. They're not a bad team on the road. But yeah, clearing the way for the Women's World Cup. But I actually do have to shout out. There's Taylor and Ellie. They're going to the Women's World Cup, so shout out to them as well. On to your next game. I hope they're watching this. Fuck. Otherwise, I'm never going to win again. Speaking of Women's World Cup venues, Allianz Stadium hosts our Saturday 7:35 fixture. The Roosters up against the Panthers. Roosters at $2.50. Penrith $1.54. Your line in this one is 5.5 to Penrith, obviously. From a lineup point of view, obviously the biggest out and what has driven media crazy this week is Nathan Cleary. Otherwise, they name an identical team. Sonny Luke actually comes back into the 22 after playing New South Wales Cup last week. For the Roosters, you've got knee lifter Suoliti.
Knee lifter.
I fucking called that straight away.
He's been doing that for ages.
Straight away, I called that, and a Roosters fan that we both know, who's very biased, defended, and a couple of days later, he got charged for it. So I was fucking right. This one for me is interesting because I think there was parts of the game last week with the Roosters where I thought, okay, they're starting to come back, but then the Dogs, they let the Dogs back into that game and just fucking won in the end. Whereas Penrith, I know Cleary's out, but last year, I know they had a better squad last year, but when he didn't play half the season and when Luai, Sean O'Sullivan did a job, and when Cogger came on last week, it was weird because Cogger was named on the bench to his debut and got thrown. It was like they knew
I think Cleary was going to play 50 minutes. I think that was the plan. Dust these fuckers off by half time and then rest him early.
Yeah, because it was did they know? But he did a very similar role to how Sullivan does, and I think that's just coming in and just
Doing his job.
doing his job. Just kick to the corners, keep it simple, make his tackles, and I think that's what you'll get with Penrith. I think you'll get a team that will still win the field position, maybe not have that flair that Cleary can bring, but I have gone the overs in this game. Head to head, Penrith and Roosters has actually been points. Obviously, earlier, 4 or 5 weeks ago when they played them, Penrith put on a clinic. The Roosters have leaked, again, 24 points against the Dogs and 22 points against St. George. So their defense is still fucking awful. So even with Cleary out, I think Penrith can put on points, but also I think they might concede. They did concede 3 tries, which is un-Penrith-like, and only once this year they've conceded 20. But I think these are the Roosters still have a bit going for them in attack.
I found this quite difficult to pick, I must say. I'm going Penrith overs. I can predict how Penrith are going to play, but I don't know what the fuck Roosters are going to do. I can't work them out. Trent Robinson can't work them out. Like, I don't know what's going on.
No.
Like, they had glimpses like, they're back. And I was like, they're not.
No.
So, yeah, I think Penrith can still score points. I think what this means with no Cleary is Luai has to. We're talking about players fighting for origin spots. Like, this guy's. Like, there's so much conversation around this spot because in the media it's being portrayed that Luai only gets selected because Cleary's there. Right?
I think it's crazy if he gets dropped because of.
I think it is too, because you want to minimize your changes.
Yeah, like
if it was game 1 and Cleary wasn't there, fair enough.
Yeah,
new half pairing. But that's what I think. I think it'd be silly to drop him. I'd be putting Reynolds in there, to be honest, because I think he's a better fit for the way that the New South Wales team is constructed.
Yeah,
Hines, the better player for sure. But based on how the team's constructed, how important that game is, I would put Reynolds in there, but I hope he doesn't make it, purely because I'm a greedy fuck. But I think Luai has to step up, but I think he's going to get more opportunity to step up. No Cleary. Luai's take chances, get expansive with it. So, and I like Panthers to score. Like as you said, the Roosters have been leaking points to everyone. So, 21.5 for Penrith. Let's go.
I'll tell you what I think's value in the futures markets. I know you don't like betting futures, but Parramatta and the Roosters to win the comp. Parramatta are 20-1, Roosters 15-1. The Roosters are literally outside the 8 on 40 against at the moment. They're literally on 16 points. Broncos and Penrith on 20. They're 2 wins from first, and they're literally 15-1.
What if Dillbags doesn't play this year?
Yeah, well, that's another story. But that's a good. And they let go of Jake Arthur. Lol.
Yep.
But I think even I think Roosters are value. Like I would wait until after this week because I think they lose this week. But if you've seen the draw that the Roosters have had,
an easy one.
Well, they've basically if you look at who they've played so far this year, after this they go Newcastle, Raiders at home would be tricky. They play Manly post Origin, then they got Melbourne at home, Titans, Broncos, Manly, Tigers, South. It's not the greatest one when you think about it.
It's fair, I think.
It's fair, but like if they go on a run, they'll make the 8, and they're only 2 wins from the first. It's not like their season's doom and gloom here.
They're just
Cowboys,
not an expectation. Everyone had them top 2.
Yeah, they were $5 at the start of the year. But now it's a Penrith, which yours truly picked as the top 2 on the ladder. But anyway, on to our Sunday fixture. There's only the one game this Sunday? No.
Is there a Monday game?
Yeah, there is, because it's King's birthday. Forgot. Sunday at 4:05 p.m. Yeah, all hail. The Melbourne Storm hosting the Cronulla Sharks. Storm $1.54, Sharks $2.50. Your line is currently, when I get it up, is Melbourne -4.5. From a lineup point of view, Olam is out for the Storm, otherwise unchanged, and Cronulla are unchanged, backing up from that disappointing result against your boys, the Broncos. How do you see this one going?
Look, it's hard. Both teams were disappointing last week. Both teams, I guess, as a casual perspective, you'd assume are probably top 5 teams in the comp. Underperformed last week. Playing at Melbourne, you've got Nico Hines going back to Melbourne. It's a big game for him. Obviously, another bloke fighting for an origin spot. Probably Melbourne they'll be playing to keep bellyache off their backs, to be honest. But I think it's a good matchup for them to go home, somewhat healthy. I'm looking to play the unders on this one. I think it's 43.5 I'm looking at. Under 43.5 at $1.94 on the old sports bet. Melbourne have played, 6 home games this year, and 5 of those have gone unders. Their defense was terrible. Like, North Queensland dropping 45 on you. Surely all they do is defend this week. Like, that is...
A couple times that's happened this year where Bellamy has been like ropeable. Like Magic Round was one, and there was another game early in the year where he was just...
Gold Coast has been 30.
Yeah, Gold Coast. He was so deflated and just un-Bellamy. They keep saying un-Bellamy-like, but this is the 3rd time this year they've dished that up.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking the unders, because I also think Cronulla, although their defense wasn't atrocious, if anything, the Broncos had like some quick tries put on them in a short period of time. For the most part, their defense was okay. It's just their attack was, I wouldn't say clunky, they just couldn't finish. They had a lot of opportunity. They dominated field position for certain stages. They just couldn't score. I don't think it gets any easier for them this week. Melbourne have a lot more to play for than Brisbane did last week. So I think it'll be a tight, grueling contest. I think it'll be a good game. But I can see, 36 to 38 points. So I'm taking the unders. What you got?
I've got Storm -4.5. Again, to your point, I just don't think they can dish up that 2 weeks in a row. In fact, if we do go back to those 3 games where they were shit, Titans beat them 38-34. The next week they beat Tigers 24-12. Then you go to that South game of Magic Round, 28-12 they lost. They then come out the next week and beat you boys at Suncorp, which very, very impressive. So I think they'll do that for the 3rd time. And the only other thing I will add is I do like the unders. I probably will include the unders now. You've talked me into that, so I'll add that one in.
I mean, it's a compelling argument.
It's a very compelling argument. On to your King's birthday Monday.
What's the King's name again? Brett?
Charles. Close.
I don't think there's anyone ever named Brett in the royal family, has there?
Nah, not yet, but give it time. Every name,
is Brett
names go through cycles. Like my nephew's named Leo, and that was like one of the top names, the second popular male name last year in Australia. I was like, there you go.
Really?
Wouldn't have been the case back in 1990. So we had the 15th place Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs versus the 12th place Parramatta Eels. Josh Reynolds is out for the Dogs, and so is Ryan Sutton. For some reason, they haven't said, wait, is Reid Marnie playing?
Yeah.
Fucking does me. I thought he died on the weekend. He failed his HIA. Okay.
Yeah, he was subject to the 11-day thing, but...
he got out of it as well.
They had an exemption or something.
Oh, okay.
So he gets... I think the clubs can put in an exemption for it, then he gets an examination by a fucking brain expert or something. Yeah. And if he passes that, then he can play. So I don't know if that's been done. Might have to Google that one, but that's why he's named.
Right. I saw Kyle Flanagan's in 19. I thought they were going to bring him. I was listening. They said they were talking about him bringing. Anyway.
Yeah, he's been playing hooker in the lower grades.
Yeah. Interesting. For the Parramatta Eels, I know he is listed at number 6, but Dylan Brown is standing down, baby. That rhymes. Can't keep his hands to himself. He can't keep his... Brendan Hands is named. Let's not get that confused with Dylan Brown's hands. Brendan Hands is named to play in the 17, but Dylan Brown can't keep his hands to himself and is in the naughty corner.
You think you play a sport and you train for it where you're touching people every day, right? So
yeah.
You get out on the drink, you're probably the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Like we work in similar type of roles where you kind of talk all day. Get home from work, you don't want to talk anymore.
No, it's not my See, when you go to the pub, like fuck that. Let's watch sport. Watch the Bricky's laptop fucking spin features. -7.5. I'm taking Parramatta -7.5, despite the stand down and the stand up for Reed Marnie.
That's brave.
It is brave, but the Dogs are shit. Like,
Oh, yeah.
when are we going to get onto how bad the Dogs are? Like, they beat their last
history is definitely on your side, mate.
2 out of their
Fuck
last 8.
hell.
But against Parra, don't mind playing against them.
20 plus on them 4 times in a row.
Yeah, it's a bit of a training drill for them. But I'm taking them -7.5. I think from Parra's point, they may even there was talks they may even move oh god, his name's on my head. Gutherson into the halves. And putting Mr. Hayes Dunster in the team. But that's me just speculating because I didn't know Reed Marnie was named until 2 minutes ago. So what would I know? How do you see it?
Gut feel was Dogs. They are shit, but I think they find a way to, like, they'll play shit for most of the game, but somehow it ends pretty close. I'm just having a look now. How many losses do they have? 3, 4, 5, 6. They got 8 losses this year. From the 8 losses, we've got it's only 3 of them by close margins, actually. So it's just probably more recent form. They've been losing in closer games, apart from that game in NZ, but they've also been winning in close games too. So, yeah, my initial lean was to the Dogs, and then I was like, the Eels always fuck these guys up. I don't like either team. I actually don't even like betting on sports played on Monday, to be honest. Like it's normally Parramatta playing on a Monday.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't like it. So right now I'm not touching it, but I'll have something on game day. But for now, looking ahead, I don't want a piece of it. I'm not going to add it to any of my multis, nothing. I'm just going to pretend it doesn't exist. Fuck that game.
Fair enough. Stay away from it, but let's go Para. Cool. That's the wrap up there. Did you have anything that you wanted to add while you were disconnected that has come to mind now?
No, I was just complaining about Munster being shit. He did nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, he did nothing. Waiting for him to do something. The commentators are talking about him. One thing I know about Cam Munster is he only needs 20 minutes to close this game. Like, all this bullshit, and he did nothing. He didn't attack the line. He didn't create space outside. He didn't. You notice he hasn't tried to strip the ball this year?
Yeah.
What's that? The rule's still the same. It was very effective before. We're not seeing much stripping these days.
No, not.
We're seeing a lot of short dropouts, not enough stripping.
I miss strippers.
I've never been a big fan. I would honestly love to watch a 3-minute compilation of one-on-one NRL strips than have a stripper dance in front of me for 3 minutes. I would prefer that.
Is that your wife in the background? Fuck. All right. Fair enough. Cool. All right, let's wrap it up there on that note. Have a fantastic long weekend for those of you celebrating long weekend. I don't know if it's every state, but unlucky if it's not. We'll catch you guys next week.
You know what? Stay tuned for the Anaconda. For those of you in the Discord, hit one at $15 last week. Bees dick off a big juicy one. Got some bonus bets in my back pocket, so we got the sauce coming to you this week. Let's get it.
Peace.